This is Joe Biden. On April 12, 2022, Biden visited Poet Bioengineering in Menlo, Iowa, to talk about the wonders of ethanol and spoke about how he had previously made a commitment to support biofuels when he campaigned in Iowa in 2020.
Now, as I was campaigned here in Iowa and made that commitment, I don't think anybody heard it, but we're back. We're back.
Yeah, when it comes to Joe Biden and Iowa, there are only two things that people remember. One, when Biden placed fourth in the Democratic caucuses, and two, this infamous exchange between Biden and an Elizabeth Warren supporter in New Hampton.
And you want to check my shape on, let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run, let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take the 9 pieces. Okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, man.
Well, I don't want to.
Well, yeah, you do, but look, Fat, look, here's the deal. Here's the deal.
So Biden challenged an 83-year-old retired farmer to a push-up contest and an IQ test, and then called him fat. But for me, the best moment is when Biden made the following claim.
Look, the reason I'm running is because I've been around a long time and I know more than most people know.
Anyway, back at the ethanol plant, Joe decided to jokingly introduce himself to the audience.
And my name is Joe Biden. I work for Congresswoman Axney. There she is.
I miss the good old days when we had a president that could say their own name without messing it up. And while the official White House transcript acknowledges that he did mess it up, they claim that he said John instead of Joan. But whatever, when it comes to Joe Biden speeches, that kind of flub is par for the course. And anyway, it was completely overshadowed just minutes into his speech.
And that's not hyperbole. It's about being made in America. A lot of that has to do with this industry.
Now, in case you missed it, something dropped on Joe Biden's suit jacket. Now, to most people, including myself, this appeared to be bird poop, and internet detectives immediately named a bird of interest. And assuming that it was bird poop wasn't entirely out of the question, because the event space was described by Biden himself to be a giant barn, and birds were in fact present. But the White House quickly disputed that it was bird droppings. Biden's communications director, Kate Bedingfield, tweeted, "If you guys knew your way around a corn silo at all, you'd know it was corn." As if Kate Bedingfield knows her way around a corn silo. Also, I wasn't aware that corn disintegrated on impact. And Justin Sink, a reporter for Bloomberg News, also claims that it was bits of corn flying around from the corn silo. The event was indoors. First of all, Justin, these flying bits of corn were actually dried distiller's grains with solubles, or DDGS for short. I mean, you'd think that a journalist would want to know what the giant mound that was next to Joe Biden consisted of, but whatever. Second, the space where Joe Biden gave his address is not a silo, it's a DDGS storage facility. So Justin Sink from Bloomberg News apparently doesn't know the difference between a silo and a building, or exactly what was even in it. And yet, we're supposed to definitively take his word that this isn't bird poop. Yeah, sure, okay, Justin. And the Biden bird poop narrative was so important to debunk that PolitiFact stepped in to give it a false rating. In their fact check, they claim that in this video, you can see the grain flying around the room off the top of the giant pile, and a video clearly shows particles flying around from a giant nearby grain pile. Except that makes no sense, because what fell on Joe Biden dropped straight down. And the DDGS dropping down on the pile was at least 50 feet away from Biden, so that explanation doesn't fly. And to blame it on particles flying from the pile is stupid, because this is clearly a clump of something. And what makes matters worse is that PolitiFact is coming to their conclusion based off of accounts from reporters in the room and the White House. You know, the people who think that this is a silo. PolitiFact also referenced a tweet from Gary Grumbach of NBC News, who wrote, "I was in the room. This is an active factory, and pipes full of corn powder filled the ceiling of this event space. Corn powder particles were dripping on all of us periodically throughout the event. First of all, not corn powder, Gary. Second, what pipes? There are no pipes filling the ceiling. All I see are rafters. Also, even if there were pipes all over the ceiling, you wouldn't be getting corn powder dripped on you because that's not how pipes work. But great job, Gary. You're doing God's work. And speaking of work, or the lack thereof, what PolitiFact and the writer of the piece, Jeff Sircone, didn't do is contact anyone at the plant itself. You'd think a fact-checking organization would require the writers to, practice journalism. Anyway, I spoke on the phone to 2 separate employees at the Poet Bioengineering facility in Menlo. They told me that when it comes to these storage facilities, DDGS gets all over the place and can be found in every nook and cranny. Now, for the event, these lighting trusses were hung from the ceiling and included speakers like these. The vibration from these speakers shook loose some of the DDGS that had accumulated up in the rafters. And some of that DDGS fell from the rafters onto an unwitting Joe Biden. And honestly, I'd believe that explanation. To me, it sounds entirely plausible. A lot more plausible than to claim that it was corn that somehow magically flew off the pile into the air and made a sudden 90-degree turn to land on Biden. But with that said, I wasn't there, so I can't prove with 100% certainty that this wasn't bird poop. So if you're convinced that it was, who am I to question your beliefs?
We've gone from waiting for Infrastructure Week, now you got infrastructure.
Anyway, I think that's a good place to end it. So be sure to hit that like button, be sure that you're still subscribed to the channel, and hope to see you next time. If there is next time.